Okay, variable scope. So we've talked about this a couple times, I think. And let's see, a variable scope refers to its range of visibility. So we said that when you define a variable, like here I'm defining score as an integer. Here I'm defining message as a string. So this is all inside this button click event handler, right? All inside this button click code, right? So score is declared inside this button click, and message is declared inside this button click. So the idea is that we are reserving all kinds of memory for different variables, right? Like here I'm reserving a certain amount of memory for score. Here I'm reserving some other amount of memory for message, and so on. Every time you declare a variable, you're reserving some memory. So the people who wrote Visual Basic or VB.NET said, well, we don't want to use up too much of the computer's memory if we don't have to. So what we should do is destroy variables, or basically forget about variables. If you forget about them, that means like you have this thing score as an integer, so it's located somewhere in the memory. But if you forget about it, it means it could be rewritten later, written over later. The computer won't hold on to that space for this particular variable. So anyway, we want to be able to get rid of variables if we're not using them. So they introduced this idea of variable scope. And that just means like, when should we allow the computer to forget about the memory, to not save it for this particular variable anymore? So the rule will be, if you declare a variable inside some, what we call this a subroutine, starting at sub and going to the end of sub, when that subroutine starts, these variables get declared and get created, but when it stops, when it ends, when we get down to here, these variables will disappear. The computer will let go of them. They won't, basically we'll just say they disappear. So we're not saving the memory anymore for these variables. Okay, so that's the idea of variable scope. So it's just a decision that about when to let go of variables, when the computer can let go of variables. So the rule is, inside where they're created, they will exist, but as soon as that thing finishes running, in this case, as soon as the subroutine finishes running, these variables will be let go. On the other hand, here we have last score. Is also, we usually declare a variable with dim, but we're using the word public, and there's a reason for that which we'll go into later. But anyway, you can just say it was dim. Dim last score as integer. So then what's the scope of this variable? When will it be let go? So it's not inside this subroutine. So it doesn't matter if this subroutine runs or not, it's still going to be held on to. Actually, it's inside this thing here, public class form, down to here. Basically that means our form, the form that we have, that you put all the buttons and everything on. So as long as that form is around, this variable will be held on to, or will exist. Is that when we get rid of that form, when we close the form, this variable will be let go. The computer won't hold on to that memory space anymore. Okay? So this is called variable scope. A variable scope refers to the range of visibility, or how long it's visible, or how long it exists. This means where it is visible, i.e. available for use. Below is a message box only variation of a simple grader that uses class level variables. So this is called a class level variable because this is called the class. From here to here, the whole thing is called a class. And so it exists as long as that class exists. So we have that kind of variable, or that kind of variable scope. And local and block level. So, okay, these are called local. They're local to this subroutine. Okay, those are called local. And then we also have, actually I didn't notice, but we also have, this one is also a variable, grade as a string, and grade as a string. So these will only exist as long as this part is running in here. So, like, for example, if score is greater than 60, like score is 70, so it's greater than 60, then grade will be created, it's declared here, and it will be used here. And then afterwards, we'll go to the end of the if statement, and so grade will then disappear. But on the other hand, if score is not greater than 60, then we don't do this part here, right? But we do else, so we do this part, because it wasn't greater than 60, greater than or equal to 60. So then grade will also be created, but as soon as we finish here, grade will disappear again. So those are called block level. So class level variables declared at the class level, so declared up here, and visible to the entire form. That means, one other thing I forgot to say is, when are they visible? So one thing is how long they exist, and the other thing is where are they visible. So what he means by that is that this variable score is visible, as we can use it as long as we're inside this subroutine. So somewhere over here they use score, and here they use score, and that's okay. But if I tried to use score outside of this subroutine, say below this sub, I had another line of code, and I used score, I can't do that. It doesn't know what score is, because score only exists inside here. So it's not visible outside of this subroutine. So I can't refer to it outside of this subroutine. So that's what he means, visible, where it's visible. So this last score is visible here, here, everywhere, even outside this subroutine, as long as I'm within the class. Okay? Local variables, like score and message, declared at the method level. Okay, so we didn't use that word, but a subroutine here is called a method. This is called a method. Okay, like this. So created, declared at the method level, so it's declared within the method. That's what he means by method level. Created when the method begins, erased when the method ends, visible only within the method, only within here. And then block level variables, like grade, are declared within a block or a clause, created when the block begins, erased when the block ends, and visible only within that block. So I can't refer to grade like down here somewhere, because it's created in this block, or actually in this block, or in this block. So as soon as that block ends, I can't refer to it anymore. Okay? If a variable is ever used out of the scope, we get an error message. So if I tried to use grade out here somewhere, let's say here, or up here, or even outside the subroutine itself, outside the method itself, we'd get an error. In code, let's see, can I drag this down a little bit? Yeah. In code outside of button click 1, the computer doesn't know about the word score, the variable score. So I can't refer to score out here.